Life gives us moments when we have the opportunity to make a choice. And what we choose has the potential to change our lives forever. Join us now for another inspired episode of The Breakthrough. And now, please welcome the creator and host of the show, Jessica Dugas.
Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I'm really excited because we have an awesome show for you today. It's another Bring Your Cousin to Work Day. So we're going to have my cousin Julia Spinnato on in just a little while, but we also have a really special performance. You guys know I've been really focused on bringing entertainers on this season, and I'm really excited to bring a group of entertainers on today, which is something brand new for us on the show. So our guest today to introduce our group of entertainers was trained by Carl Drake in Atlanta, Georgia at the Drake School of Irish Dance. She competed for many years. She won championships. She qualified for world championships even, and she opened a dance studio in Auburn, Alabama, and is here today with some Irish dancing. Everybody, please welcome Amanda Tucker-Poole to the show. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here because my girls have been dancing with you for a little while. And we've talked several times on this show this season about how inconvenient the whole virus thing has been, but it actually has been convenient for us because we moved recently. And because everybody went to these Zoom lessons, it's been really cool that my daughter has been able to continue dancing with you because she loves you so much. She loves doing the dancing. And so that worked in our favor.
Yeah, I'm really glad it worked out.
Yes, for sure. So tell us a little bit more for just briefly about why do you love the Irish dancing so much? Why are you passionate about it?
For me personally, it's just fun. There's something about the music. There's something about the way you move. It gets in your blood, it gets in your heart, and you always love it. It's always, once you really love it, it just kind of always has a place in your life. I started dancing, I was 8 years old, and I loved it. I immediately fell in love with it, and I had so much fun. My very first teacher, Miss Barbara, just really instilled such an amazing love for dance in me, and just made the class so much fun. We would do awesome performances, and I just really enjoyed it. And as I got a little older, I got a little more serious with it, and started going more often. And I would travel up to Atlanta, which at the time, I grew up in Carrollton, Georgia, and so it was about an hour and a half drive up to my lessons with traffic. And so we would go, once I got serious, we would go several times a week. And I loved that aspect of it too, really working hard and just becoming the best dancer I could, just because I loved the rhythm of it and I loved the musicality. And so I wanted to push myself to become the best that I could. So it kind of boils down to several different things why I love it.
Well, it's such a production, the Irish dancing. I remember when I was little, my grandmother used to watch Riverdance anytime it would come on, and it's such a I don't know, there's something that's just so different about it compared to other styles of dancing. I think obviously every style of dancing has its own thing and reason why it's amazing, but I don't know, it's something that just draws you in and you just start staring, and it's a magical experience. You see in the competitions the hair and the poofed out dresses for the ladies, and it's do you like all of that side of it, the entertainment side of it, where the dressing up and all of that?
I do, to an extent. I kind of feel I have maybe differing views on this, because I do like it. I like kind of the showmanship of it, but at the end of the day, I also really like seeing a dancer. We have these competitions now, we call them blackout feshes. A fesh is the Gaelic word for our competitions, and where the dancers will just wear a black leotard and a black skirt. There's no fancy dresses, their natural hair. And I actually have come to love those, because it's really just about the dancing at that point. So I see a place for both. I do like the simplicity of just not being distracted by the crazy dresses and the crazy hair, but it is a little bit entertaining as well. And the kids, it's funny because at first when I started dancing and I saw that as a kid, I thought it looked crazy and I did not want to wear that. But I don't know, just as I was around it more and more, and I got to see that, the dresses are based on the Book of Kells designs from Ireland. So there is a lot of history there. They've evolved a lot from then, but once I kind of knew the history of, these are telling stories a lot of times with our dresses. It was really cool to see that. And then I loved it when I kind of understood that. So I like both sides of it, really.
Yeah, I could see, how you put so much work and effort into the dance and the technique and all of that, that it would be kind of refreshing to have those blackout dances where it's really just focused on the technique. Like, obviously the hair and the makeup and the dresses are all a fun thing, but it must be refreshing as a teacher to have that focus on technique, and just, the eyes go to the feet and see what's going on there, right?
That's what we work on, as you've seen Marjean working at home recently with our Zoom lessons. We work so hard on our technique, and it is nice to not have a distraction.
Yes.
If you notice, in the shows like Riverdance, if you compare their costumes to competitive Irish dance costumes, their costumes are much simpler, and it's for that reason, because it's to kind of let the dancing speak for itself.
Absolutely. Well, I know that you have the studio in Auburn, but you also do classes in Birmingham and in Alabama. So how many students approximately do you have total? And have some of them, are they at very different levels? Like, what is the span of students like?
Yeah, so I have close to 50 students. I would have to actually count, but it's thing. It's close to 50. Between the two groups. So I do have my studio in Auburn. It's technically Opelika, but I have such a bad habit of calling it Auburn because when I first moved here, we rented space and taught in Auburn, and that just always stuck with me. So it's technically in Opelika, just right across, Auburn, Opelika are sister cities. And in Birmingham, I teach classes at Westwood Ballet, and there's all ages involved. I teach kids that are 3 years old, can barely skip, and we're learning our right from our left foot, and learning to like clap to music and just very basic things like that, just for kind of introduction to movement type stuff. And I teach adults. That has been a really fun journey, is getting to teach adults, and it's just because they're doing it purely because they enjoy it and they love it, and it's a great form of exercise. I also teach beginner people up until championship level. We had it's been over a year now, but last year we actually had the first 8-hand team from Alabama to compete at the World Championships. So I was really proud of those girls. Those were some of my dancers from Birmingham, and they worked so incredibly hard. The commitment they made to that team was incredible. But I've also had soloists at the World Championships, so kind of all levels and all ages covered here.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that we've got a few kids with us today. We've got some from the Opelika class, and we have some from the Birmingham class as well. So we're really excited to get into that. We're going to be back in just a minute with our dancers, starting off with some soft shoeing. You'll get to meet the dancers as well. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Breakthrough Show. We've got all of our Irish dancers here today, and I would love them to go around and tell everyone how old they are, their names, and how long they've been dancing for. So we'll start with Marjean.
I'm Marjean. I'm 10 years old, and I've been dancing for 2 years.
I'm Gwyneth. I'm 13, and I've been dancing for a year.
I'm Maeve. I'm 19, and I've been dancing for I think about 9 years.
I'm Talon. I recently turned 11, and I have been dancing for almost 4 years now.
Hi, I'm Bailey. I'm 16, and I've been dancing for about 5 years.
Hi, I'm Victory. I am also 16, and I've been dancing for about 8 years.
And we have an adult in the group today, too. You want to give us your name and how long you've been dancing for?
My name is Catherine Markham, and I've been Irish dancing for 6 years.
Awesome, guys. Well, we're really excited to have you on the show today, so we can't wait to see you dance. Well, our dancers did an awesome job, and we are going to be back in just a minute with our special guest today, retired veteran of the Army, Julia Spinnato. Hey, Jessica Dugas here, creator, producer, and host of The Breakthrough Show. We have big goals here at the show in the desire to change the world one Breakthrough Show episode at a time, and honestly, we couldn't do it without you. We want to take this moment to give a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters for helping us to not only expand the show, but spread its message far and wide. If you're not a supporter yet, we would love to have you. You can choose any tier with tons of benefits at patreon.com/thebreakthroughshow. We can't wait to have you part of our Breakthrough Show family. And now back to the show. All right, welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. Well, we did it last year and we're doing it again this year. It's officially Bring Your Cousin to Work Day here on the Breakthrough Show. Last season, you might remember I welcomed our hilarious cousin, Jim Spinnato, to the show. And my special guest today is retired veteran from the U.S. Army, currently working on her master's in applied behavior analysis from Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts. She's very multi-passionate as a mom who is involved in so many things, which you can certainly tell is a theme for our family, clearly. Please welcome my cousin to the show, Julia Spinnato. Julia, thanks for being with me today.
Of course.
This is going to be fun.
No.
Well, it'll probably be less cursing than when Jimmy was on the show.
Yes.
Perhaps.
But, I mean, we can fix that too.
I never, he's like, he kept going, oh, and I'm like, just listen, I've already decided I'm marking this one as explicit, so it's
let it out.
Let it go. That's his personality anyway. And I've tried to tell people that is not just his like stage and screen personality. Like he's actually like that in real life. Yeah. So I wanted to have you on because we often will hear stories and things about people in the military, and I never really have the opportunity to talk to people and say like, okay, how did you keep yourself going through all this stuff? Because I imagine that it's a really high stress, whether you're going through basic training or your daily things or you're at war or whatever. I just feel like it's so high. Like I would have freaked out a long time ago.
Yeah. So I think that it's a lot different now. I know a few kids, I call them, but young adults, right?
Why are we saying that? Why are we old enough to say that?
No, it makes me feel old. But some people going through basic training and they're like they're specialty schools right now, and it's so different. They get to have their cell phones on Sundays in basic training. They're like, I heard one story like this kid was talking about coming home from the gym on the bus and the bus driver playing music. We literally, if we went anywhere, first of all, we didn't even realize there was a gym on base. Like we were out in the fields, like rolling around and, but we were in cattle cars. If we were transported anywhere that we weren't walking, it was literally like in the back of a cattle truck where you're like, holding on to each other, or like, you can't move anyway because there's so many people. it's just changed a lot. And I can't say it's for the better or worse. I mean, times are just different.
Yeah.
And I think that this generation growing up is so different that it would be a lot harder to get people to join if it was the way it was, back when I went. But I'm sure people before me say the same thing. It's always like, well, it's never as tough as when I went through or whatever.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I was thinking about when I'm sure that it was different when my father was in, because he retired eons ago and he was in for 20 years. So that was a long time ago. We won't talk about how old you are, Dad, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, when I went through, I enlisted the week after 9/11. And I had been kind of thinking about joining anyway. And I had been talking to a recruiter, and that kind of solidified things for me. So I had gone in and I signed, and I was in college. I was at UConn at the time. And so I took some time off of school to go to basic training and military police school, which was all at once. So you go to basic training, and then your last day of basic training, there's not really a difference. Like the next day you go into MP school. And it's the same people and it's the same drill sergeants. And the only difference was you had less time to get things done because there was more expected of you. So it, the whole basic training, military police school experience was good for me, I think, because I feel like I kind of grew up in a bubble. And I took things so seriously at first. And I joke with some of the people that I went through basic training with about how they had like this apple or something that somebody had hidden, right? And they were so hungry at night and they were eating it, and they didn't involve me. They didn't let me know they had this apple to share with me because I think they were afraid I would tell on them or something, because I seemed so by the book. And we laugh about it now because there's no way I would have ratted them out. But I think just growing up, there was such a lack of cultural diversity, I feel, that when I went to basic training and I'm with people from all different backgrounds, from all different parts of the country, it was hard for me to realize how people did things so differently. So that was a big eye-opener for me. But as far as the stress, I feel like everybody went through the same thing together. So it brought you close. And I really feel like that's part of what they were trying to teach, was building you up as a close-knit group that can rely on each other and know that if you need that person, they'll be there for you.
Is it like we see in the movies, like with Stripes and An Officer and a Gentleman and all? Is it like that, where it's really like pushes people and can separate you, where like if you don't cut it, like if you can't keep up, you're done?
No, not really. So from my experience, and I know everybody's experiences are different.
Yeah.
But with my experience and just talking with other people throughout the years, as far as basic training, they really want everybody to graduate. And there are people who will act like they have some kind of like mental illness, or act like they might commit suicide, or like, I remember this one kid, I woke up one morning and I thought there was like a tornado or something outside, because it sounded like the wind was howling, and it was this kid, and he was like curled up in the fetal position, like pretending like he had gone crazy when he hadn't, but he just didn't want to be there anymore. And that was like the only way he knew how to get out. But they don't want that to happen. They push you to your limit. But I believe that it's because they want you to see your potential. They want you to realize what you're able to do. And they also want to make sure that you can function under a stressful environment. That's a huge thing, because when you get into a combat environment, there's like this fight or flight mode could kick in, and they want to know that you're going to be able to function. Otherwise you're going to endanger other people's, life.
Right. And we see that a lot of times, you know, in the news that something has happened and someone just kind of can't take the pressure. And so, I mean, it makes sense that they would push you to that point because they have to make sure that you're going to, in a real situation, going to be able to handle that. When the times got really stressful for you, like, how did you handle that? What are some of the things that got you through it?
As far as basic training, it was writing letters home, hoping that I'd receive mail, kind of confiding in people that I had made friends with, and realizing that they were going through the same thing. In real life, I've had some pretty crappy situations that I've been in, as far as leadership failing to be supportive, working with males who didn't feel like females belonged in the military, and trying to make my job really difficult. And I struggled with that a lot. And because you kind of grow up in this culture where everybody's supposed to be supportive of everyone else. And then when you see that that's not happening, or you see that, you know, somebody's receiving treatment, you know, different than how you are, you expect that these people are going to act a certain way because you share, or you're supposed to share, the same values. And it's supposed to be its own culture where people are like-minded and they do the right thing all the time, and you can expect that, you know, they're going to do things by the book. It's really disheartening when that doesn't happen. And it's a huge problem in the military that they're trying to fix.
Right.
But when the leadership at the top doesn't really care, or they're there for their advancement, and as long as it doesn't make them look bad, you know, they have their one-track mind and goal that they're looking to accomplish. That's the really stressful part. And to be quite honest, that's a big part of why I ended up getting out when I did. So I think that, well, one of the things the Army does teach, and I think this is across the board for the military, is they're big on teaching resiliency. And so there are all of these different aspects that they look at. One of them's like hunt the good stuff. So if you're in a bad situation, you try to look for any little positive that can get you through that time. And so that training, it's mandatory, and it's done pretty often within the military, just to kind of help build people up and give them the skills that they need if they're in a tough situation.
Yeah, I think more people need that skill right now with everything. And I posted on my social media one day the quote from Fred Rogers, which was that when he was little and there was bad things going on in the world, his mother used to tell him to go look for the helpers because there's always people that are helping. And I think it's along that lines. We're so quick to say, well, this sucks and it's so hard and I can't do this, but really, I mean, I think that can keep us going, is if we take that time to look for the good things, right?
Yeah. The one thing that really gets me is seeing, I mean, there's some funny posts on Facebook right now about people homeschooling their kids, about asking for them to be transferred to a different classroom, or the homeschool teacher got fired for drinking on the job or something. And those are funny, but there are people who are legitimately complaining that they have to homeschool their kid right now. And the way I look at it is like, that's more time that you have with your kid, and you can turn it into quality time.
Right.
You know, Adriana, my daughter, you know, as you know, she's 11 right now, going on like 25 or something. So it used to be that she was at my side all the time, and she's like, oh, mommy, do this with me and do that with me. Now it's mom. It's not mommy. It's not mama. It's mom. And which I don't like. It makes me feel bad, because I still want to be mama. And she changed it in her phone. And then she changed it. We have those Amazon, like the lights, you know, that you say, Alexa, turn on whatever. Now it's Pooper. Now my light's called Pooper's light. But it used to be Mama, and then it was Mom. And she got mad when I changed it back to Mama. But anyway, that's a side story. So, you know, she's more and more wanting to spend time with her friends, or, you know, hanging out in her room, listening to music, or, you know, watching YouTube videos, or she likes to paint. And so any quality time that I can have with her, I really cherish and appreciate. And I don't understand why other people don't see it the same way.
I think some people maybe are setting themselves up to be burnt out by this whole thing. And really, I think some people just like to complain because it's a situation where, you know, you've heard people every single day going, oh, I wish I had more time with my family. And now they have more time with their family, and they're like, oh, they need to go back to school. You know, and it's been funny for me to sit back and watch, because we've been homeschooling for 7 years now. And I never pictured myself doing this at all. Like I just never, I mean, when you used to come to Graham's, like we used to play school and stuff together, like school, like not homeschool. We play school, you know, and I never pictured that we would be doing this, but really it took us several years to get a groove that works for us. So I think a lot of what people are freaking out about these days too is that expecting themselves to be like a public school, or expecting things to run like that. And the kids don't know what's going on. They're freaking out. Like they're hyped, like Christmas is coming, and they've had too many, you know, Christmas cookies, and, and they're hyper because they don't know what's going on. So I think it's, you know, it's sad to me too, that more people aren't embracing this, but I think everybody's just so in a space of, what do I do?
Right.
You know, and freaking out about it as well. But
I think that that's one thing that I can give credit to the military for, at least. I mean, I think that I've always kind of been laid back, but it's one thing that people recognize about me and say, oh, wow, Julia, you know, you never really get stressed out, and you're always super laid back. And there was a time at Adriana's school where it was bike to school day, and one of the parents dropped off her child and accidentally started backing over. She didn't realize her kid was behind her car on his bike, and she started backing. She backed over the bike, but he had fallen and gotten out of the way. People are freaking out, and I just run up and I make sure he's okay, and get the bike out of the way. And like, they're like, how'd you stay so calm? Well, if you freak out in situations, you're not going to get anything done.
Right.
And I really believe that that's a learned skill. I think that the way your children see you act in stressful situations is how they're going to act. And I always tell Adriana, like, if we get in a car accident, or, you know, if something happens, and she's like, what do we do? And I said, well, the first thing is to stay calm, because you can't figure anything out if your mind isn't calm. And then you look at the situation and figure out what to do. And so I credit the military a little bit for giving me that skill and being able to pass it on to her. And she stays really calm in situations, and she's able to think level-headed and kind of assess things. And I think that's really, really important.
It's something that it's something I had to teach myself over the last 10 years. And because I've always been really high anxiety, like worrying about everything, and not really panicking, but going there, at least in my mind, and allowing that to get out of control. And I've had to sort of teach myself how to do that. What's more stressful for you? Was basic training or raising a child?
Well, so
it depends on what age level we're talking about.
So, yeah, I have this really weird thing that I don't like to touch food. And, you know, I cook a lot and I wash my hands so much, but if I eat popcorn in the movie theater, I have to have wet wipes with me, and I'll only use like 3 fingers. And I can't eat a sandwich if it's like super messy or like my child did not eat food on her own unless it like blueberries or fruit, like that's one thing, but like spaghetti, oh no, I fed it to her until she knew how to use the fork. And I like, so in that way, I think that, you know, mud, dirt, like I can play in that stuff all day. And if she wants to play in it, that's fine. But food, it's not even like it grosses me out. Like it freaks me out. So I think raising a child probably, well, and because in the military, like when you're a certain rank, like people don't talk back to you. Like try to explain that to my kid, right? I can say, go clean your room to a private, and that private's going to go do it.
Yeah.
You should see her the other day. There's a floor in her room that I thought like disappeared. It's there still.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one thing that I really struggled with was in the military, going from telling somebody to do something and having them listen and having them, they may not like the person telling them what to do, but have respect for the rank.
Right.
And if somebody tells you to do something, you do it. And the civilian side, and this is why I think so many people transitioning from military to the civilian world have issues, is because it doesn't matter who it is. If you tell somebody to do something, they may or may not do it, or they may question you or say, well, that's stupid, or this isn't going to work. And to me, it's so disrespectful. There's a way to tactfully bring things up. And you can do that in the military as well. If you're trying to understand why, okay, well, you want me to accomplish this task. What is the end state you're looking for? And sometimes that's good because that gives you a better idea of what exactly you want done. If you say, do this because I want this outcome, then you may do things a little bit differently. But in the civilian side, if you tell somebody to do something, and even if you tell them why, I've seen some really disrespectful people, like adults, people older than me, like just blatantly disregarding something that was told by their supervisor, and nothing happens.
Right.
And I can't tell you how much that upsets me. And I just I want to get like this, we joke, this is like the knife hand in the military. Like when you tell somebody what to do, like, I just want to go up to them in their face. Like, what are you doing? Like you just don't do that. And I don't get that, but I mean, I think that's one good thing about the military is there's that structure and respect, and that's how you get things done.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that for sure. I mean, it's one thing where I tried, like when we first started homeschooling, it was real cute because I thought we were going to be like public school, and I emptied my living room and I had like, the Chicka Chicka Boom Boom book where they teach, like I had the entire coconut tree cut out on my wall, like at home. Like I thought, like the Pledge of Allegiance and the Lord's Prayer and the table. Oh, bless it. That lasted like a minute, like not long at all. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm trying to do something that is not going to work because this is not a classroom. This is home, And so I think, do you feel like, some of that stuff in the military that's good can be replicated in the civilian world, or do you think that it's like the safety of that container almost, that it's able to happen in that way?
I think that it would be a good thing if it could be replicated on the civilian side. And I think in certain organizations, it is. Like EMTs or police officers or firefighters, like they have more of a structure. But I think really now we're so concerned about being politically correct and not offending somebody or not hurting somebody's feelings.
Yeah.
And
trophies for everyone.
Right, exactly. and so I mean, I think it could happen, but there'd have to be a huge like mind shift in, you know, for everybody, because, and I really, and not to make me sound old again, but I really feel like this younger generation, like these kids that are 18, 19 years old, it's almost like they expect certain things.
Yep.
And it's not all of them, because there are some kids that are super, super respectful. And then there are some people my age that are complete, like, words that we won't say.
We're talking about you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I notice it a lot, where people just don't, I don't know, like, they'd all have to go through basic training, I think.
All right. So you're working on your master's right now. What's your goal with that? Where do you want to go with that?
My undergrad was in organizational management, and the reason I picked that was because I thought it was pretty versatile. Like, you can manage anything, right? So once I got done with that, I was like, oh, all right, well, what do I want to do? Maybe I'll focus on leadership. And I started taking some graduate level courses in leadership, and then realized that like mid-level executive alpha male type was not who I wanted to be working with. And so I thought, well, you know, what do I want to do? And I thought about maybe counseling. I thought about working with people with PTSD and anxiety issues. And I started researching and came upon behavior analysis. So it's behavior modification. A lot of it deals with people on the autism spectrum, and looking at behaviors that either aren't things that they should be doing, or maybe like self-harm or harming others, and finding ways to get them to react differently based on what's triggering them to do that. And while autism is, I think it's a very important area of study, it's not really what calls to me. What I'm more interested in is maybe working with people with PTSD. But I also have an interest in working with animals. And I find that really fascinating. So I'm pretty new to the whole thing. I'm in my second semester right now. So it's a 2-year program, but the last 6 months are an intensive program where, you know, you're working with other people and kind of, you know, learning the skills in real life that you learned in your books, right? Like an internship. So I'm kind of keeping my options open at this point. We do have the National Center for PTSD here at our VA, like 5 minutes down the road from me. We don't have like a mall, we don't have like a grocery store, but we've got that, which is nice. And I think I think that may be the route that I take. Now I can do what I want to do. And so why not do something that I'm passionate about, that helps other people, that makes me feel good about contributing and helping our community. And then it doesn't even really feel like a job. It's just something you like to do that, you may get paid for, and it pays the bills and it enables you to do other things that you like, but it's something that you want to do that isn't just getting you from point A to point B.
Right. I love it. And I've always been super proud of you and the direction that you've gone in your life. And it's cool to see, things continuing and the time that you've had in the military, and just, you've gotten to experience so many things that are super fun. And I want to finish the show on a light note today. The whole time you were talking about food, the difference between like basic training and raising a kid, and not like, I could just keep remembering in my head what it must have been like in your mind when we were at Olive Garden that time.
With Clay eating the breadsticks.
My son had the breadsticks and was like a little squirrel, a little gerbil going on with that. That's what I was trying so hard not to laugh, because that's what I kept seeing in my head. What's a fun memory that you have of like, I don't know, good food that we ate growing up, or a memory that from when Grandma used to have her Christmas parties? What's a good memory you have?
Well, the whole thing. I mean, it was always kind of like magical growing up, like you ate this really good meal and there's shrimp cocktail, and your mom would make those caramel pecan turtles. The turtles, yeah. And the first time I tried those as an adult, I set the oven on fire. Oh, really? Oh, man. I can do them, but I can do them now, but let me tell you, that was a fun time. Or Granny's calla lilies that we make. Yeah. I've never found anyone else that makes those. I don't think anybody can make anything how she did. That is true. But or even going over to Granny's, and she always had something cooking, and she always gave us like, she had cookies stashed, and she'd give us did she ever give you like the little bag of change? Like she'd split it up between all the great grandkids. Yep. And so there'd be like 50 cents worth of like nickels, and she'd be like, here, go get something. And it was like this, she was the sweetest lady. But man, I think every memory that I have about family growing up always kind of had food in the picture. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It was fun. It was fun for sure. And we always like had such big, so many people over at the same time shoved in. I mean, I didn't realize until the last time I had gone to Graham's before she had sold the house, that house was not that big. Like, how did we fit that many people in there? I know. And like the kid table that we had, that was always, getting yelled at for being too loud or like, laughing too much. Yeah, decorating the Christmas tree together. Yep. Oh yeah. Well, I'm excited right now because I'm working on a collection of short stories about growing up with Grandma and Gramp that I'm compiling all these different lessons, because they always taught us things without teaching us. Like they always did things that were like, I don't even think they realized the amount of goodness that they passed on to us. So I'm hoping to get all of that done by the end of the summer and start working on promoting that book, because everybody should have been at our Christmas parties. Hello. Yeah. I remember one lesson I learned was to hold the donation, the donation basket with two hands. The change basket at church. Yeah. I think they were so mad when I dropped that. Julia dropped the change, the offering basket at church, and it went everywhere. And they were both like a big part of the church, so they knew everybody. And like, I mean, I think everybody looked over at me at that point.
That's Marjean, Tony's granddaughter. Nice to see you. Well, it's been so fun having you on today. I always like having family on, and we kept it way cleaner than the Jimmy episode.
Yes.
All right. Well, it's been great having you on, like I said, and wishing you lots of success for the future. And if anybody is watching today and wants to connect with Julia, just come through me, let me know. And all of the things you were talking about, like with the therapy and all that, that's up in Vermont where you're at, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So if any special needs families are listening or anything like that, and you want information about that stuff, just let me know, and I can be happy to connect you with Julia, and y'all can connect that way. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll be back in just a minute for more of The Breakthrough Show. We hope you've been enjoying The Breakthrough Show. If you're someone who is an inspirational entertainer or has an incredible story of breakthrough, we want to hear from you and maybe even have you on the show. Be sure to visit the links in our show notes to send us an email or connect with us on social media. We hope to see you on a future episode of the show. And now, back to The Breakthrough. All right, all of our dancers are back now, and they're going to be doing some more dances for us, so sit back and enjoy. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming and dancing for us today. Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show, everybody. Our dancers were amazing today. Amanda, thank you so much for sharing them with us and allowing them to come and share their talents with us. And thank you for the work that you do with the kids. How has it been going from the classroom environment to the Zoom environment?
Well, it's been a big change, that's for sure. At first, I was very worried that it was just going to be a huge disaster and wouldn't work out. But it's actually turned out a lot better than I anticipated. There's a handy little mute button, so you can stop a lot of the chatter that goes on in a normal studio class. But the kids have also really learned how to work at home and how to use the space they have, whereas before, I don't think a lot of them were really doing that. They were just dancing in class. So I've actually seen a huge improvement in the technique, and I was not expecting that. But they've really been troopers through all of this. I know this time is not easy for anybody, and they've had their whole worlds, upended, just like a lot of people. And they've really stuck through and really been committed to their dancing through this. So I've been super happy to see that, and I'm really thankful that you gave us this opportunity to come on your show because, like we've discussed before previously that, this happened, we shut down our studio right before St. Patrick's Day, and usually St. Patrick's Day is slammed. Well, we canceled, all of our shows got canceled. There was a recital that was in the works that got canceled. Our competitions have been canceled. So anyways, it's just been really nice to give the kids something to look forward to. So thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. Well, I was trying to think of something like, you feel as a parent so often, I can't even say so often because we've never been through something like this before, but when your child's world is kind of thrown for a loop, you can feel helpless and feel like, what can I do? And usually the answer is nothing. But in this case, I thought, well, I have this platform and I really not only want to give that chance for my daughter, but to give that chance to the other kids and you as well, because you work hard too, to teach them and to show them what they should be doing. So it's really, of course, a pleasure to have you guys on, and I would love to have you all back on next season and see how far they've come and all of the things that they've learned. It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. We'd love to come back.
Awesome. Well, it's been awesome having you. And just so you guys know, I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to host them. Thank you to all the parents that allowed your children to, your dancers to come on and share with us today. We really appreciate it. Also want to thank our guest today, retired veteran of the U.S. Army, Julia Spinnato. And we want to wish everybody that was watching today a safe and happy 4th of July weekend. And also, I want to give you a quick heads up for next week. We have Aaron Hill on the show, a pianist and songwriter and musician from up in Baltimore, Maryland, and we can't wait to have him not just to talk about his history with music, but to perform on the show as well. So thank you to everybody that made this show happen today, and until next week, guys, please take a moment to rate, subscribe, comment, and share where available, and make today a great day for a breakthrough. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Breakthrough. Please visit our website at www.thebreakthroughshow.com. And be sure to join our After the Breakthrough community powered by Patreon. We look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same place for another inspiring episode.